Get ready, because here's your host, Tyson Mutrux.
Good morning, everybody, to the Guild Live show. And I've got a really good one today. We're talking about Reddit a little bit. We're going to be talking about demotivated employees, which, we all face from time to time. Solving problems for your team is another one we're going to cover. That's an interesting thing from Harvard Business Review. 25 AI hacks that it's an article we're going to go through. And then a couple things about happiness, which I found to be pretty interesting when it comes to what it takes to achieve a happier state. I wouldn't say achieve happiness in general, but just happier state of mind. So we're going to cover those very, very interesting things coming up for us. The first thing we have is Reddit. And this is an article. It's the 2025 Business Guide to Using Reddit Effectively. This is definitely interesting. Reddit isn't new, but its influence is exploding. And this is something we have played with a little bit in the firm when it comes to like posting things and all that. And we have looked into it. We've posted more and more there. I know that Hasib, who's on our team, he's I think one of those in the camp that thinks it's really more important than what I think it is, to be honest with you. But there is some research to show that it is a trusted search engine for Gen Z and younger millennials. So the senior millennials like myself, not really my thing, but younger millennials, Gen Z, it is something that quote unquote is a trusted search engine. The article talks about best results come from comment-based thought leadership. Okay. And not self-promotion. That is something I can tell you just from Max Law. We've kind of found the same thing where we talk a lot about whether people are on the show or they're posting things in the Facebook group. We've found that it's very similar where if you lead with self-promotion, people tend to not like it as much, whatever it is. So whether you're being interviewed, whether you're putting out a video, whether you are making a comment, when you lead with self-promotion, it typically does not work. And I think that that's something that is may not seem super obvious because you think, oh, you want to promote, because that's kind of how advertising works. And that's not really how this works when it comes to Reddit or really any sort of online forum in general. It just doesn't work that way. Hosting AMA threads, so ask me anything threads in niche subreddits is something that is pretty effective. So it gives you a visibility boost. So that's something else that the article talks about. And there's also a new ad tool. There are new ad tools that is going to give Facebook a run for its money, which is interesting thing too. So it's also it's cheaper. That's the other thing too with this is that it's a cheaper it's a cost per click, and that's what's pretty interesting. So here's some of the article here. What is Reddit and why is it becoming an influential channel? Reddit is a user generated content platform, UGC, divided into thousands of subreddits, which are topic-specific communities moderated by users. These are highly active contributors, critics, and vocal fans. As of 2025, Reddit sees more than 97 million daily active users, 365 million weekly, and 1.2 billion monthly, which is sort of interesting numbers for sure. Now, I don't think that those pale in comparison to many of the other social networks, but this is just a little bit different because it is a lot more interactive. When it comes to like TikTok and all that, you've got, the video that goes out and people can comment it, but the back and forth is not there as much as what you might see in something like that. So I find that kind of interesting too. So something to kind of consider. I mean, you're going to treat it. It's like a live forum, okay? And it's not a billboard. That's what's really, you've got to remember with things like this. This is not a billboard, so don't use it as a billboard. It is a live form. You're going to engage back and forth. So either, go all in with something like that or don't do it, because it's not going to be effective unless you go that route. Unless you go the route of, you're going to have someone, and it may not be you, someone in your office that is going to actively engage with people. If you're not going to do that, then it's not worth doing. Okay. All right. So let's get into our second article of the day, and this is this one comes to it's about demotivated employees. This one's from Harvard Business Review. Actually, I think I have two from Harvard Business Review today, and I picked both of these because I think they're going to be they're pretty interesting when it comes to helping out the team. And so this one's 6 steps to reset a demotivated team. And on this one, so they go through and they give you just really the 6 steps. And so I'm gonna cut to the chase with these and just get straight to them, because they're highlighted really well in the article. That's why I'm just gonna go straight to them. So number 1, reassess, diagnose before you act. So before we get to that, though, kind of give you a summary, because what's great about Harvard Business Review, if you don't have a membership, you should, or at least I'm not signed in here, so I'm not going to be able to see everything. But like any living systems, teams need regular care, attention, and intentional renewal to thrive, whether driven by restructuring, relationships, tensions, demotivations, or strategic pivots. There comes a moment when a team needs, and it's basically needs to be remotivated. So first one is reassess, diagnose before you act. Leaders often rush to make changes without first diagnosing the underlying issues, only to find the problems worsen before jumping into action. Consider these questions. Is the team aligned on purpose, goals, priorities? And it's got these other questions here too. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you're essentially, reassessing the team. Okay. And then once you get to number 2, you're going to reconnect. All right. So build trust and psychological safety. What it says here is if your team has been through turbulence, chances are trust has taken a hit. For example, we recently worked with a senior leader at a pharmaceutical company who dismissed a team composition change as just one person and that it was more or less the same team. I'm sure that probably rings true with many of you, that you would say the same thing. But the reality was different. While only one team member was replaced, the new person was dismissive, and made sarcastic comments which fundamentally distorted the whole team's power dynamics and diminished psychological safety. Relaunching starts with rebuilding psychological safety by creating an environment where people feel safe to speak up, share their experience, challenge ideas, and even engage in a good fight now and then. Here's how to begin. And I think this one is really, really important. And the part I want to highlight is engage in a good fight now and then. We, like in our team, I tell people all the time, it's hard to offend me. And so you got to just give it to me straight. And we want to encourage in our team, if you disagree with something, let us know about it. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's talk about it. And there's sometimes where I just have a line in the sand where I just will not cross over. I will not agree to something, or, and I think that's fine. But for the most part, I'm pretty open to changing things if I need to. And I think that is all around the team. The entire team needs to be that way. So here it talks about lead with vulnerability by conducting a team check-in, encourage open dialogue, allow for constructive feedback. Having those regular feedback loops, really, really important. Number 3, re-envision. What's our job to be done? So what's our job to be done? What is your team's purpose? What does the future hold? What is at stake? Teams rally around clear, inspiring visions, especially during periods of change. Frame the relaunch as an opportunity to realign on the what, not just to react to problems. I like that a lot. So we'll get to when it says when we get to the part where it says to get the realignment you need, be transparent about challenges while focusing on the future. Clarify the overall vision, reaffirm the team's purpose and value, and then set a forward-looking tone. Number 4 here is recontract. Clarify the team's ways of working. Okay, recontract. Misalignment often stems from confusion about roles, priorities, and how team members will actually collaborate. During a relaunch, renew and redefine key elements of what McKinsey refers to as the team operating system. For those of you that don't follow McKinsey on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, I highly recommend that you do. They're probably on Blue Sky, wherever you are. They put out a lot of really good statistics and quotes, and they're fantastic. But McKinsey says, team operating system, the building blocks for the way team members collaborate, create change, and support one another. Consider roles and responsibilities, decision-making processes, team norms, and expectations. So it says here, we worked with the leadership team of a fast-moving consumer goods company's EMEA region on realigning their meeting practices. They were suffering from meeting proliferation, where their entire days were spent sitting in meetings, leaving little time to get actual work done. We challenged them to be as specific as possible, considering questions like who must really be in the room and who can receive the minutes afterwards, yada, yada, yada. So recontract. And then number 5, re-energize, build on successes. It's easy to fall back into old patterns to make the relaunch stick. Focus on quick wins that demonstrate positive movement and reinforce the new behaviors. That's something that Jason Selk would definitely preach, celebrating those wins, even if you think that they're small. It's got that snowball effect. It also gives some ideas here: bi-weekly check-ins, wins and learning reviews, one-on-one coaching. So, and then number 6, readjust, sustain momentum. A relaunch is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. That's key. And the steps aren't always linear. Keep the momentum by tracking progress, providing micro feedback frequently, and then regularly reassessing and adjusting. So that's a good one. If you find that your team is demotivated, that's why I wanted to grab this one, because if you find that your team is demotivated, this could be, a nice little outline for you to try to remotivate your team, get them back on track, because sometimes it's just small little tweaks you got to do. So let's get into solving problems. I really like this article. This is another one. This is the last one from Harvard Business Review, but this is, I like the name of the article, but the message is great too. So they talk about stop solving your team's problems for them. Stop solving your team's problems for them. And this is just a really fun one, in my opinion, because many of you, I'm sure, have this problem where it's a problem about problems. Problem comes up and then you just solve it, right? You just think this is the easy thing to do, and I'm just going to solve the problem for the team. And that is not something that they recommend that you do. And it's for a variety of reasons. And they give so a 4-question coaching method. What have you tried? What happened? Thoughts? What's next? You want to promote ownership. So you want to empower your staff, build judgment, and then free your bandwidth. That's another one. And then it's also a big culture boost. So regular use encourages growth mindset across the team. So let's show you a little bit of this article so you know what I'm talking about here. Summary: many leaders today are struggling to balance the aspiration of being supportive with the reality of feeling overwhelmed by their own to-do list. But when a well-meaning leader becomes a default problem solver, so it affects the entire team, is what they talk about. So it starts with Sven, a sales leader, received a call from a major customer who was furious. Their order arrived late, the product was damaged, and to top it off, their invoice didn't reflect the volume discount promised in the quarterly newsletter. All right, so to sort of translate this into law firm ownership terms. So Sven, a case manager, received a call from a huge client with a massive case who was furious. They didn't get a return phone call like they were told they were going to get. The offer they received was low, And to top it off, let's see, the pleadings that were filed by the with the court did not reflect the client's goals that were discussed in the initial meeting. I say it's something very, very similar, but I think many of you can see how this could relate to the work that we do. And so here, Sven wasn't quite sure what to do. He'd need to involve other departments to resolve the problems. But there was a lot of organizational red tape, plus recent layoffs and economic uncertainty had him paranoid about making a mistake. Sven decided to bring the problem to my client, Laura, his manager, and the organization's chief revenue officer. All right. So she asked, in this one, what happened was she listened, and then she said, "What support do you need from me? Could you reach out to the customer?" Sven asked. Laura knew Sven was capable of managing the problem, but she didn't want him to feel unsupported or dismissed, so she agreed, adding item number 143 to her daily to-do list. And so ultimately what it does is that she solved the problem for him and doesn't really help him, right? So here's some questions that they've asked, right? You go through and ask these questions. Said, what have you tried? So asking this question doesn't suggest you're not available to support. Instead, it signals that you expect initial effort, okay? Or at a minimum, some brainstorming to have occurred prior to looping you in. Okay? I really like that part. So what have you tried? Then you get to what or who is getting in the way of tackling this. So if your employee hasn't been able to tackle a problem, they should at least be able to identify why, whether it's budget, time, or sign off. Get to the root of what's stopping them from solving it. Okay. Removing the obstacle is typically more efficient for you, the leader, than taking ownership of the entire problem, which is, I think, it's pretty good. What support do you need? And she started with that, but she maybe should have asked this a few steps down the road. So the traditional question of what support do you need from me, as my client Laura asked Sven, is a well-intended leadership sentiment, but it can unintentionally limit the number of potential support avenues. Support is general; it doesn't have to come from you, the leader. It could also come from another leader, a fellow teammate, an adjacent department, or an external resource. Okay. Next question: what would you do if you were in my seat? When you solve problems for your team, they often don't see the effort you put in. Staying late, sending follow-up emails, navigating politics, and weighing trade-offs. This results in no appreciation for the person doing the solving, and then no skill building for the person who handed it off. So another way of putting this, so what would you do if you were in my seat? I asked the question, I think I got this from Christopher Nicolason, is what do you want to do about it? I find that to be something that it has them think about it, and then it gives them the confidence, especially once you've affirmed that they're making the right decision. Hey, I love that idea. Go with it. It builds a lot of confidence in there. And the next question they have in here: is there anything else I should know? Sometimes the only reason a problem is on your desk is because your employee didn't want you to be surprised by it. Okay. And then it ends with, there isn't a self-care checklist, meditation, or brain hack that's going to make an inroad at chronic managerial overwhelm. To bring your best self to the most important moments, the volume of tasks must decrease. So ultimately what you're doing is you are putting more on your plate whenever you take on the problems of your team, and you are also demotivating them, which relates to the previous article that we just talked about. So thought that one was an interesting one. Let's get to these 25 AI hacks, and these are from they're from CEO type people is what they're from. I've got several articles that I was considering doing today, and so I'm trying to get those out of the way. But so the 25 AI hacks high growth founders swear by to transform your business, and this is from Inc. CEOs reveal how they are using generative AI to solve problems, save time, make more money, and get an edge on their competition. This is one where you might want to take some notes, and because I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, you might have to pause, rewind, all that kind of stuff. But this is a good one. Here we go. Number one, train AI to handle your hardest conversations. I think that's an interesting one. When you had to have a difficult conversation with a client, we'll train these GPTs to handle it, where Kirkwood says. She applies the same thinking to most tasks rather than train an employee directly. Kirkwood will train a GPT and tell employees to use it. I think that's kind of interesting. So instead of saying use the GPT, I'm like, use Ollie, the objection overcomer. That's a pretty good idea. Number 2, turn Anthropic's Claude into your smartest new hire. Okay, we have an internal saying, onboard Claude like a coworker, Meyer says. The more Claude knows about inner workings of the company, the more useful it gets. Number 3, go viral on LinkedIn. So that's something that they use. I went on a 3-month posting binge, Stepania says. I think I had over 7 million views on LinkedIn. Claude's work wasn't perfect. In some cases, it took hours to clean up the text, but the chatbot helped Stepania quickly generate many different ideas to test out. Number 4, research your VIP customers fast. I find Perplexity really, really good for things like this. So we're trying to understand our guests before they check in, so we can create great experiences for them. So I'll use Perplexity quite a bit to research guests we have on the podcast. It's very, very effective at doing that. Get the pro version if you don't have it. It's really good. Number 5, anticipate your cash flow needs. So that's I think that's kind of self-explanatory, but that's a good one. They do talk in here. I usually ask it to find patterns, outliers, and working capital financing needs. So I've been able to start working on our short financing needs way ahead of time. 6, develop new branding concepts. Number 7, put AI agents to work in customer service. We do allow a customer to prompt out and immediately get a human at any time because we don't want to frustrate people. But I would say like 75% of the time it's gone really well and we've gotten the results we wanted. So there you go. 8, cold email prospects with a personalized pitch. Okay, there you go. That is I've talked about this on the podcast recently about dealing with hot leads, but I like that. So you can this is one, I guess I thought I meant cold prospects. No. So you're cold emailing. So it's essentially what I was talking about, where you can take the intake data and then transform it and then shoot them an email that's more personalized based on what they had submitted. I think it's an interesting idea. Number 9, treat your Zoom AI companion to read the room. This is an interesting one. When I saw it earlier, it's what they say. It can tell how people are engaging with you, says company president Garima Shah, not just how you sounded, but whether the person, not just how you sounded, but whether the person you were speaking to took that information well. That's an interesting one. Number 10, build AI characters who will give you straight talk. I think that's really good. That's I'm not going to give too much away, but something very similar to what Jeremy Danielson is doing and what he's going to talk about at MaxLawCon. So really interesting when it comes to that. So boom. And then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give 10 because it is, I want to make sure we don't go too far over time, and I'm already pushing it. And there's two more articles I want to do, but check that out. It's on Inc. 25 AI hacks high growth founders swear by to transform your business. All right, let's get into happiness. Let's talk about happiness. And like I said, there's 2 articles that I want to talk about when it comes to this. The first one is, let's see. I'm trying to decide which one I want to do first because we're going to do the one proven brain hack is what we're going to do. And this one's also from Inc. So I'll do the Inc. back to back, and then there's another one we're going to get to. So one proven brain hack that boosts happiness and drives results. Here's a simple mindset shift that leads to better outcomes. All right, positive psychology is no longer a fringe field of study. It's a well-researched area. This is another Jason Selk reference, okay, by me, not by the article, but he's talked about this a lot, but it's a well-researched area that's changing how we think about success, performance, and well-being. One of its most powerful insights, your mindset, not just your circumstances, is what shapes your experience. Okay. Research shows it's not the reality around us that drives happiness. It's the lens through which we view that reality. When we shift that lens, we can improve not only our personal outlook, but also our business outcomes. Um, so hack your brain to optimism. When your brain is trained to focus on problems or threats, it reinforces. This is the part. It's definitely Jason Selk heavy. So basically, it's natural to focus on problems and threats. Okay, that's what Jason always talks about. But what happens when you do that? You reinforce that stress. But when your brain is trained to recognize moments of meaning, progress, and connection, it creates a more resilient and optimistic mindset, which improves how you lead and how your team performs. Okay. So here's one simple exercise to do. Write in detail about one positive experience you've had during the past 24 hours. Make sure to bullet point each detail you can remember, list who was involved, what happened, and why it mattered. So that's this article, and I'm gonna move on to the next one because I want to make sure I have enough time. But this is what the stuff that Jason Selk talks about, right? This is the exact same stuff, and he's it's just spot on. It is a massive thing to do. Just this little bitty thing. I promise you, if you were to do this, it makes a massive, massive difference. So check that one out. And then now there's one more. I'm gonna say one of these. There's another one I want to cover today, but I'm not going to. I'll save it for next week. But this next one is another one about happiness. And science says there's only one thing you can buy guaranteed to make you happier. I love this one so much. So this is the third one from Inc. magazine. I didn't realize I did so many because I looked at so many different articles for this week that I didn't realize I did 3 from Inc. and then 2 from Harvard Business Review. But I've got some good ones from Entrepreneur that I'm going to cover, and some one from Fast Company, which is really good, which I'll probably cover those next week. Depends on what comes up, because I'm always having to get rid of stories, and there were several that I went through this week that I really did not want to get rid of, but I did. So let's get to the one thing. I wonder how many of you guessed what it is at this point, but we'll see. It says, especially research shows when making a conscious decision about the best way to use what you just purchased. So money rarely buys happiness. So, and this is, I'm going to get through the bullet points, and then I'm going to get to the punchline essentially. It says, more specifically, a study published in Academy of Management Review found that people who value material possessions over relationships or personal growth report greater anxiety and lower life satisfaction. And I'm just going to cut to the chase with all this. Basically, people who buy things and you're more focused on materialistic things, or what they put in your retail therapy, it makes you less happy. Okay, it's what it comes down to. And they talk about people who buy time, so paying people to do clean the house, do your lawn mowing, all that kind of stuff, are happier. So in a 2017 study published, so this is not a new study, it's a new article, but not a new study. In a 2017 study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, researchers surveyed thousands of people who sometimes paid other people to perform tasks they didn't enjoy or didn't want to do. Think cutting their grass, cleaning their house, running errands, things the participants needed to do but didn't particularly want to do. It should come as no surprise that people who spent a little money to buy a little time were happier and left greater overall life satisfaction than people who did not. Okay. It says, I know what you're thinking. Maybe people who spent a little money to buy a little time were happier simply because they had the money to buy time. Actually, no, it says. Well, relatively wealthy people who spent money to buy a little time were happier than relatively wealthy people who did not. People at the bottom end of the economic spectrum who spent money to buy a little time were happier than those at the bottom of the end of the economic spectrum who did not. So have a lot of money and use a little of it to buy back some time. You'll be happier. have a lot less money and use a little of it to buy back some time, you'll also be happier. So I found that to be a really interesting thing. I guess it's not super surprising, but I'd say it's a little surprising. That leads to happiness. That's something that I found to be interesting, is that's what it leads to happiness buying time. So anyways, that's all I have for us this week. Hopefully you enjoy this one. I know I packed up a bunch into this one, but hopefully you got something from it. If you did or you didn't, let me know. I would love to hear from you. So comment and give us some feedback. So appreciate it. Have a great week. See everybody.
Our next mastermind in New York City is sold out. But don't worry, there's still time to get your tickets to the Mastermind and Max LawCon in Nashville in October. Max LawCon is 2 days of immersive learning, powerful insights, and meaningful connections, all designed to provide actionable strategies you'll take back to your firm and implement right away. No fluff, just real talk and tangible takeaways you can implement immediately. Go to maxlawevents.com for more details.
I deal with life different, make that limit squeeze. Wait, no, for my style and identity.